Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our Trash Can Irby Derby career. And we've dropped in on some, well, undefined mercenary lands. Relatively good position. I think we're going to move up here to our northwest and get a nice elevated flanking position on the Op 4, who are already in, well, close enough range to make us technically in combat. So, not too much space, and oh, wow, they actually have someone up on the hill already, which was definitely not what I anticipated at all. I'm certainly hoping that he's an isolated mech here, and we can collapse on him relatively quickly. Let's see. We have Edmund in the Irby Lamb, and we can do two things. We can get up at a relatively high elevation. I do want to be in the forest, just in case we take some light fire. And we can get a second sensor lock off of Ed. So, the Clint, having not moved on its current deployment, started off with 8 pips of evasion, and that's all the way down to 4. So, we keep seeing, this is just driving me a little crazy, we keep seeing all of these UMR-29s, they carry a single coil. It's not exactly a build meant to keep the mech itself alive. It's meant almost as a sort of kamikaze type thing, where he'll get in, deal a single hit to us that we can't really afford to take, and then overheat and burn himself to death. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it works out for him, but if he gets good movement, that coil can straight up kill one of my mechs with a well-placed shot. Not to mention rip off an arm or something minor. So we do have to be a little bit careful here about avoiding friendly fire, well, not friendly fire, accidental enemy fire. If we should get too close together, that coil could very well miss its target and still hit us, which is not something I want to see happen anytime soon. The thing too is that there are a ton of evasion pips on that Irby. So 6 evasion pips, almost matching what we can do on the Irby Lamb, which does top out at 8. So they managed to go the whole time, moving the Clint last. Not exactly ideal for us. Single medium laser coming in, nothing too terrifying right yet. But I want that UMR-29 dead, and I'm not sure the best way to go about that. So, what we can start off with is pounding that Clint. But I'm almost tempted, I think I will wait. I want to see what the R-29 does. If we give him a chance to move. Let's see. And if we can handle this, we can handle the Clint, we can handle the UMR-29, we can still go with that original plan, moving up to the northwest and getting height elevation. Ouch. Hey. So the coil deals damage and heat to its, the firing mech, based off of the number of evasion pips you get from movement. So I guess that bases to 1, because we took 27, the 10% damage mitigation, so 30 down to 27 on the UMR-90, despite our 7 evasion pips, although some are ignored by the coil to make up for how dangerous it is to the user, I would imagine. I'm not sure, given the amount of heat taken by that Irby, how it had any expectation of sinking more than that, and, shooting in at 30 is just standard medium laser, which it deals way more heat to the user than that. So the Clint did not move, which is good for us, because now it's in the same position, has 0 evasion pips. He will have some decent damage mitigation, but what I want to do is I want to get the Hermes 2 up there, and we're going to land our light tag. It's only a +1 for the other damage, but that can be the difference between hitting and missing, which is something I definitely care about. Now we opened up the right torso, and let's see if we can follow it up. I want to move the Dervish, because, well, let's see, where can we go with the Irby Lamb? If we really wanted to, we could get a shot on the R-29. It's not horrible. Can I get a better one with the Dervish? Not really. Yeah, actually we can. So, because of that, let's move the Irby Lamb up. I want some crit seeking on that damaged torso. And we can either do it with Streak SRM6s or the standards. And the standards are actually arguably more effective at it, because Streak SRM6 is going to fire everything in at the same hit location, if it fires at all. and it does prove to be useful here. Um, Definitely better at landing more consistent damage to a single point, but oftentimes what I find is if I just want to hit with 1 or 2 missiles, try and blow up something, get an ammunition explosion, something like that, I'm quite often, although not always, better off with a standard non-streak weapon, because then, well, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 shots will miss, and maybe 1 will still hit, right? So I don't need all of the damage from that. I just want to knock them around a little bit. And we can see that right now. We had 56% chance to hit the SRM-6s, and we landed a fair amount of damage. While as with a streak SRM-6, we probably wouldn't have fired that sort of accuracy. So we'll go in, we'll kick the UMR-29 and open up with 4 lasers. Not the best accuracy. Arguably I could have done this before the other one to give that unsteady, but he didn't have any evasion pips anyway. Still managing to dodge all of our missile fire. It's quite annoying. But we have destroyed the Clint. We have a 30 and a 50-ton mech on radar contact. Well, not radar contact. I guess it's radar contact, yeah. Well, sensors, I suppose. Undefined sensors. And if that R-29 gets a rear shot on anything successfully, we are going to have problems. Look at that, 6 evasion pips. That's just insane. Alright, well, let's wait a little bit. I want that. Ooh, that's a Razorback. I do like that mech. I sold the pieces to afford Dervish. Kind of regret that now, but it was a different model, so it would have cost us a pretty penny to build. So I'm going to go in first with the kick, and the reason why is if I land the kick, which I have an 88.7% chance to do, then that Irby will lose all 6 of his evasion hooks, which right now is making him near impossible to shoot. See, there it is, lost evasive, still 28% damage resistance, but now we can actually land some damage. Quite nice indeed. So I want a rear shot, actually. What if I opened up? That left side's pretty open. The reason I'm hesitating is the Irby Lamb could get a wonderful rear shot on whatever that is down there, that 50-tonner. So I think we're going to wait. Let the 50-tonner move. That's a Star Slayer. Okay. Shoot into the back of your own Razorback, why don't you? Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at that. Down to 5 internal structure from, quote, friendly fire. I think I argue with that definition a little bit. Okay, not the best accuracy. What could I get with the Irby Lamb? No, not the best accuracy, to be honest. I think we'd be better off... No, I was going to say shooting at the Star Slayer, but we're so close to killing that Razorback now. We just singled anything to land in at that rear CT. I think let's give that a shot, just take guns off the field. Streak SRM-4 is still damage coming in, and that mech is down. Very nice. Very nice indeed. So now we just have the Star Slayer and that damaged urban mech. Let's get the Dervish. So we have choices. We could always go up and try to hit the Star Slayer with our medium mech Dervish. But I want to see if I can kill that Irby. It is a rear shot, we have damage to the left side already, but I can't really get a good flanking shot there, so let's just try and go through that. And we can manage it because of that SRM-16 loadout. Very nice. Very nice indeed. We do have 1 salvage on this, but the rest of it I took for money because, well, buying that Dervish wasn't exactly cheap. Let's go in for kick. May as well. See if we can drop unsteady 4 evasion pips away. We can. Very nice. Yeah, good damage on there too from the lasers. So my hope with that was to then allow us, so we'll reserve down to 7 because we can, to fire in well with Hermes 2 and with the Irby Lamb. So good precision strike. See if we can land the tag, which we do. Smattering of damage, not enough to bore through anything. That is the risk that we run with this, and now since we moved him down to initiative 5, we can move up the Dervish as well, although we don't quite have the ability to get up to that ridge. If we can put in any sort of XL engine to that Dervish, then we get the mobility that we need. I still do want 3 evasion pips with the Irby Lamb, despite sacrificing a little bit of accuracy for this. We can make that accuracy up on a precision strike, so no big deal, and 3 evasion pips is better than 1. See if we can bore through the back. No, it looks like the SRMs went for arms. I've been hitting a lot of arms lately from rear arcs. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that, but alright, let's wait. Let's let him go, because I can't... Oh! Is that a DFA? That was a DFA. Can you stop DFAing my mechs, please? I don't like it. I don't enjoy it very much at all, and... Oof. Alright. At least he was knocked down there. Unfortunately, my urban mech can't do anything now, so maybe I should have gone with him earlier. The rest can't, though. The Irby Land can get back up there, and the other two are already up on top of that ridge, so really no harm, no foul from that perspective. Even gonna pop Vigilance, because why not? And end. Now the Irby we pop Vigilance with is moving on 9. Just wanted to give him the chance to shoot. I didn't want to feel left out, although, having said that, we don't have great accuracy there, so let's just do this instead. Did we fall over with the Hermes? We did. Is that a pilot injury? No, actually it was resisted. Very nice. We have been working on our guts scores for pilots. Fortunately that was resisted. Right leg destroyed on the Star Slayer. And that is a pilot eject. He was bleeding out, but he still would have had a chance to stand up and shoot, and I didn't want to give him that. So normally I'd sign off here, but since that was so quick, hang around for a minute and we'll take a look at the greater campaign map and the state of the company.
Mission successful.
Okay, so 1.1-ish million C-bill payout. It was precisely 1.1, except we spent 5,480 on our mission costs. And do I not get salvage? Ah, yeah, my bad. I took that off for money, which as you can see is well needed. We have 1.5 million, now up to 2.5. So now we're up to 2.647 million C-bills. It's not the best reserve ever, but it is, you know, it's reasonable. So buying the Dervish was about 8.6 million C-bills. I ran a couple missions before then just because I figured, you know, running the full Lance of Urban Max was getting a little bit old for most people. At least more than likely. So we take a look at our mech bay. We have the R60X that I don't use anymore. It's a standard R60X configuration, AC5, small laser, not great movement, 4.6. And we have the two R90s, the one with the binary and the ER medium, and the other one with the clan tech. And the other two, I mean, we're only using one urban mech on our Urby Derby campaign now, other than, well, I guess you can count the Lamb as also an urban mech. I don't really, because it's technically a different mech chassis, I suppose. Talking out of both ends of its mouth, I suppose. Of course, you can't see the jetpack unless you're on deployment, because the base game is not really meant for lambs. And the Hermes too, which this guy is not amazing. I do want to cycle him out, but he's better than the UMR60X. Arguably, we'd have more luck with the binary laser R90 than with the Hermes 2S, but at least this guy has movement, right? So he's moving at 710. That's pretty quick. That means evasion. That means survivability. And it also contributes a little bit to the pace of the missions, right? So if I go to this guy and take a look at his movement, moving at 3.5, I was having to wait for him, slow everybody down to move over cohesively, or, you know, moving up ragtag, right? Which is not something you want to do. You want to have a somewhat coordinated speed with your lance. That way, you know, if I'm dropping 6 mechs, I might split it into 2 groups of 3 fast movers, 3 slower movers with heavier guns, maybe some artillery support, things like that. But we're so early on that I need to have all 4 of my mechs firing in order to coordinate on targets and take them down quickly and cohesively, which is how you survive, right? So, in terms of our part storage, I have a fair amount of clan mech parts. So we have 2 parts from an adder, 1 part from an Arctic cheetah, and 1 part from a Kit Fox, which I think that's the here as well. So this could be good for us. We could build out some clan light mechs, but I haven't really seen many other clan missions, so I haven't really been able to follow up on that. I do want more of their tech because I absolutely adore clan XLs. The regular ones I think are a little too risky. Losing a single torso, we don't have the firepower to guarantee that we won't do that now, but losing both basically means we're losing the mission anyway, losing the mech anyway, so really not too much that we could have done at that point. So if you look at our command center here, there's not really all that much left. The ambush convoy mission at this point I don't think is amazing. We have the mobility to do it, and I've done it before at this point in the campaign, but it's a single skull. The payout is horrible in terms of C-bills, and really good in terms of salvage, but that's a little bit tricky because 1 skull convoy ambushes, in my experience, tend to be mostly tanks in BTA 3062, which means that my salvage isn't going to be very valuable to me anyway. I'm not going to get engine cores I can sell. I'm not really going to get a high likelihood of good mech chassis parts to really build out new mechs from, right? So this is a little bit of a waste. So we're going to go over instead toward navigation, and I'm going to look for a 1.5 skull planet. Yeah, and the reason for 1.5 skull, I bounced back between 2 1 skull planets for a little bit just to make some money, but I think we can face the challenge now. We're in Free World League space, and it's possible to see with all those skulls. But I want to stay here for a little bit. We didn't really spend much time with the Free Worlds in the last campaign, and I think that would make an excellent initial allegiance for us while we find our feet as a mech company. So we'll highlight a different faction store, build out some different mechs that way, and I think that'll be a good idea. There's a pirate presence on Tamarind, and I actually don't want that because it increases the chances, at least as far as I'm aware, that we would be fighting the pirates and decreasing our reputation with them, which will increase the fee for black market. And I kind of want in the black market without having to pay through the nose. This one is abandoned. Only 21 days to get down here, but it's a lunar world, which means high heat. It's not something I really want to mess with mostly laser build. Westover, Intersphere level civilization, that's usually good. Megacity, this means it'll have a good faction store, usually. And it looks like it's either temperate or maybe Aqua World? No, Megacity. Okay, so high chance of urban biome stuff. Prado, aquaculture, I do like that. Intersphere civilization, 24 days. And we are moving farther south. Now, the Magistracy of Canopus, we could work for them. We could work for them a little bit as well. We go back and take a look at our reputation. So one thing to note is that the Free Worlds League are, I believe, enemies with lots of people. So yeah, they're enemies with the Lyrans, with the Capellans, known as Combine, and Fedsun, so all the other major houses. Comstar and the easy for me to say, Magistracy of Canopus. So, okay, there goes that plan. I think it's a really long enemies list. If we go over and look at Fedsuns, well, okay, it's all the other major factions, and the Taurians were on their southern borders, so I think what we could do, we could work for the Free Worlds, work for the Taurians, and then sort of float around with that sort of thing, be a little different. And Ostergaard will finally not completely hate our guts. Which, you know, that's its own reward. Well, in theory. Anyway, so next goals ordinarily would be upgrading the Argo, and that is definitely a valid goal for us as well. Let me just get back to 1.5. But we do need 5 mech parts to get mechs in this playthrough, because that was the amount that I chose. I think we are actually going to go to Tamarin just for the short 15-day travel period. But
Roger that, Commander. Course plotted.
I don't know. I like buying mech chassis at the start a little bit because I find it's particularly with the sheer amount of variety in the BTA 3062 mech Rolodex. Until the later game, when you can take, you know, you take a lot of missions right in a row for pretty good salvage, better than 210 or something like that. We're not really going to be getting consistent max. At this point, if I hadn't sold chassis parts, we might have been able to put together a fire starter, but I got more use out of the Dervish. At least I think I will. It's a heavier mech chassis, it's a little bit more capable, it'll carry us farther into, you know, getting out of that early game trap and more into the mid game where we can start really making waves. And I'll show you here in a second when we do get to the next planet. But some of the, well, actually I'll show you right now and we'll call it that, I think. Go into engineering. There are more upgrade options within 3062 than in the base game. The one that I really want is the next drive system upgrade, but in order to get that, I need to complete the high-capacity power conduits and structural reinforcement, which will take quite a while. And actually, you know what, we are going to start one of these right now, because may as well. 30-day time frame is pretty high, but that's pretty expensive. And if we look at actually getting more mech and battle armor control slots, as well as tank control slots, okay, the tank one's cheap, but where's the next mech control? No. Seriously, come on. Mech only slots to 3. Yeah, 750,000, completion 6 days. But it requires improved power. Well, wait, hold on. We have both of those. Well, we could get it. Could field a 5th mech here pretty soon. I think that would be a good increase to our general firepower. It would mean that we put the R90 back in the field unless I have something else. But this just it's a wonderful way to sink money when it's not necessarily the best way to break out of that early game rut. So, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and get to Tamarind. Ooh, stowaways. As you make rounds to the ship, you hear an unusual sound. Following your ears, you stumble upon an unexpected sight. A ball of kittens has materialized in an empty living pod. Between the shut door, the litter box, and the pile of tuna cans, you expect foul play. Not particularly fond of your crew hiding things from you, there can only be one way to resolve this. If any of you ever click the airlock them button, we can't be friends, that's the answer. We'll make the crew take responsibility. Morale decreased by 1 actually is a big problem because that shuts us down from... Oof. Yeah. Oof. So we were up here. I paid a lot of money to get into Spirited because the morale gain means more precision strikes, and that's a much more powerful battlefield presence. But with that morale drop, we went from 31 down to 30, so we're back into the steady morale section that you start off in. Well, okay, I'll have to pay through the nose during the next month, but there's nothing I can do about it now. Don't particularly feel like delaying, because delaying for that would mean that we would have to pay for another month of upkeep. So if we look at the available mechs here, there's a Blackjack BJ1, 45 ton. I mean, this is not a really capable mech, but it's better than a trash can, at least nominally. The double AC2 is really not my favorite thing. 6.7 million. We could get another Dervish, but I need SRM racks because this thing is the default configuration. We could make one into an LRM carrier, but my problem with that is Inner Sphere LRMs, 5 tons for 40 damage output, is not phenomenal, in my opinion. Even with the range, it doesn't tend to be super useful for my playstyle. I prefer to stick and dodge and move and do all that. Take a look at the command center then. And yeah, so here we could take a first 2 skull battle, which would be pretty nice. Might even take that for salvage instead of a escort mission. That sounds like a nice way to die. Base destruction. 2 skull base destruction for 4 salvage. I would actually take that for the salvage, not directly for the money. So that could be pretty good. And some of those smaller stuff I'll do probably off screen on my own time. Just because, you know. Ooh. You know what? There are 2 duels here. Duo duels. Is there a tonnage limit? Yeah, tonnage restrictions. Not telling me what they are. Well, I think putting these back to back will probably make for the next set of missions, assuming that the tonnage is reasonable. But thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.